Tonight, a Region First program to cut crime in Toowoomba.
Regional Queensland a hot topic at today's Cabinet meeting.
A severe heatwave warning for parts of the state.
And streets turn purple for Jacaranda Day.
This is 7 News with Joanne, Desmond and Nathan Spurling.
Good evening, thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
Well, first tonight, Toowoomba Police are working to cut crime and bolster safety with a Region First initiative called Safer Together. The program has been hailed a major success in other regions and it's likely to travel further west as well.
Armed and violent, youths continue to target businesses and homes in the southwest. The latest, a 16-year-old boy who last week was arrested and charged over a string of robberies in Goondiwindi. It's part of a cross-border police blitz. In Toowoomba, officers are also targeting community safety with an alternative approach.
It's a way to, engage with people that we wouldn't usually have access to.
The program, Safer Together, targets break-ins, car theft and youth crime with local help. It's already helped prevent crime in Cairns and Rockhampton, which have also kick-started the initiative.
It's been quite effective in those locations, and so we're really hopeful that we'll have the same sort of impact in the Toowoomba community.
Police will rely on residents who champion safety as an information source to tackle crime.
We've identified 18 local residents from diverse backgrounds throughout Toowoomba that are going to represent different parts of Toowoomba.
But the resources are at anyone's disposal, online or in person, to help protect them.
You're happy to talk to us out in the community. We're happy to listen to you and try to look at how we can make things a little bit better for you.
If successful, the program will continue rolling out to other Queensland regions.
This is a long race, and it's really about working with the community.
Tom Duffy, 7 News.
A teenager has avoided a criminal record after trying to burn down her former high school in Carney Spring. The 19-year-old pleaded guilty to arson after causing more than $200,000 worth of damage to Highlands Christian College in September last year. Prosecutors say she used a jerry can full of petrol to start the blaze. The woman was sentenced in Toowoomba District Court to 3 years probation and ordered to complete 240 hours of community service. The court heard she has ADHD, autism and mental health difficulties. Lawyers argued she was unable to control her actions. No conviction was recorded.
Well, Regional Queensland has become the controversial hot topic of the LNP's first Cabinet meeting. Senior ministers of the newly minted Crisafulli government sat down in Brisbane today, revealing hidden cost blowouts to some of the biggest projects.
They're freshly sworn in and ready to put months of promises into action.
This body has some important work to do over the next 4 years to give Queenslanders the fresh start they overwhelmingly voted for.
Youth crime and health and housing and cost of living, and that remains our focus.
Right up until the regions stole the show.
We can reveal today through the detailed analytical report that the actual cost, and with Treasury forecast, the actual costs of Labor's hydro hoax is over $36 billion.
That totals $15,653 per Queensland household.
Vowing to put forward a new roadmap of smaller pumped hydro stations spread out across Queensland, while the Deputy Premier revealed what he called the real reason behind delays to Kiwana's outdoor stadium ahead of an Olympic review.
And we're advised that the reason they didn't issue the tenders before the caretaker kicked in was because that one project is now tens of millions of dollars already over budget.
While 15 netball courts in Rockhampton got the go-ahead.
That's what Legacy is all about.
Within their first 100 days, they've also vowed to boost staffing at rural maternity services and reset youth behaviour in the regions.
Every time I went to rural and regional Queensland, they would be saying, this is all about Brisbane. It can't be. It's got to be about all of Queensland.
Danny Sharp, 7 News.
Parts of southern Queensland are sweltering through severe heat with temperatures to reach up to 40 degrees in outback towns. The Weather Bureau has warned the inner southwest could get temperatures 11 degrees above the average. Birdsville will be the hottest at 45 degrees tomorrow. Conditions are expected to continue until later this week. Of course, Livio will have more on the weather a little later on in the bulletin.
Well, there are calls for the Albanese government student debt plan to go further and tackle the things making education expensive. If re-elected, the Labor government will knock 20% off all student debts, but the cost of courses will stay the same.
Getting a good education is becoming more difficult. Daniel Gillette is studying his second degree and has about $20,000 in student debt.
It means that my choices are more limited. It means that I need to stay in employment that's going to keep me not having enough time to study and those sorts of things.
But he could benefit from an Albanese government promise of a 20% reduction in student debts. The average Australian debt of $27,600 would get just over $5,500 knocked off. And it's part of a $500 million federal package, a carrot for next year's election.
Pretending that they can make it better for me and weaponising my debt in order to try and win my vote, that just doesn't wash with me at all.
The National Union of Students believes it doesn't address the root cause of expensive education. Indexation continues to rise and degrees in arts and humanities shot up in price only a few years ago.
I'm certainly not going to object to it. I'll personally very happy to see 20% of my HECS debt go away. What we need is meaningful change, not something that looks nice and will draw people in.
Advocacy groups also say students should be given greater priority during this cost of living crisis, with those pressures placing huge strain on the younger demographic.
We know the dropout rates from universities are the highest they've been since records began in 2005 at the start of this year.
Rex Quayle, 7 News.
A GoFundMe has raised almost $1,000 to continue the search for missing man Jack McLennan. He was last seen in October at Fix Crossing near Mergen. Police, SES and specialist divers have conducted an extensive search of the area, but are still looking for answers. The community is hoping to raise $20,000 to keep funding search efforts and support his family.
Well, the town of Gumbunji population swelled over the weekend to celebrate all things purple. The Jacaranda Day Festival has marked 3 decades of performances, parades and markets.
Almost every year for 30 years, Gumbunji has welcomed colour and a town full of visitors. The Jacarandas along Mackata Street carpet the area in purple.
Every small township, every town right across our region is so important. They all have some uniqueness, and today is a great celebration of uniqueness of Gumbunji.
The crowds enjoyed entertainment, market stalls, community displays, treats and the grand parade on Saturday. This year's theme was music. 2024 saw the addition of kites depicting furry animals.
Jacaranda Festival is a record, has to be. There's so many people here, the kites, the parade was absolutely awesome. Full credit to the Historical Society and to all the volunteers. This is just a magnificent community event.
Last year, the event was cancelled 2 weeks out, but organisers say their volunteers rallied to make sure that didn't happen again.
I was a bit unsure how many people would be because there was a bit of a step last year, a slight change, but this year people have come out in droves.
More visitors are still expected in the coming weeks as the Jacarandas stand in bloom. Josh Van Staden, 7 News.
How good was that sight on Mackata Street too, the purple. Beautiful, Joe. Well, ahead tonight, the federal coalition's plan to end supermarket gouging.
And a fierce but friendly lawn bowls battle to help create a veterans hub.
Toowoomba turns to 7 News to keep up to date on local issues, and we want you to be a part of it. If there's something happening in your street, your suburb, we want to know about it. Send us a message or drop us an email.
And thanks for joining us here on 7. Invasive fire ants have been detected northwest of Brisbane for the first time. Council workers found 2 nests outside containment boundaries in Diagula. Officers from the National Fire Ant Eradication Program say this is cause for concern. The Diagula Highway is the main connection between Caboolture and the South Burnett. Residents and businesses are encouraged to check their properties.
The Coalition has announced a bold plan to end the supermarket duopoly with a strict and costly code of conduct. The bill is set to benefit families and farmers doing it tough, even though the Prime Minister claims the cost of living crunch is almost over.
Bringing Woolies and Coles into line.
We're saying it's a flat $2 million infringement notice if the ACCC sees there's a breach of that code.
The Coalition has proposed a new code of conduct to put an end to supermarket price gouging.
This is about making sure there's a big deterrent, a big stick at one end of it, to make sure that the supermarkets do the right thing.
It would have three main parts: a discreet supermarket commissioner,
one that's designated to allow farmers to come forward in a confidential manner to make complaints,
in addition to hefty penalties and leaving decisions in the hands of the ACCC and the courts, not politicians. The code targets cost of living, which Labor says is already under control.
We've got work with the supermarkets to bring down supermarket prices.
It comes after the ACCC announced legal proceedings against Woolies and Coles for misleading customers through discount pricing. The Nationals say Labor's code of conduct won't kick in for another 6 months.
The cost of living crisis is today.
You keep talking about affordability. Have you done anything on fuel? Have you done anything on food?
Tom Duffy, 7 News.
The Cherbourg Aboriginal Council says it's disappointed by the state government's decision to freeze hearings on the truth-telling inquiry. Premier David Crisafulli announced the government won't be allowing hearings to go ahead. Stradbroke, Cherbourg and the Doomadgee communities issued a joint statement claiming it marks a significant step backwards for engagement with First Nations people.
To make that the very first priority in his new term of Premier, is that an indication of what we're going to face for the rest of the term of his place in Parliament?
The inquiry was due to run for 3 years and had already heard stories of abuse. David Crisafulli says he doesn't want the decision to be divisive.
Well, bowlers have gone head-to-head in a fierce but friendly competition in Toowoomba to mark 75 years since Northies Bowls Club had its first game. The club has also joined forces with the RSL and the Royal Air Force Association to create a new hub for veterans.
They were once defending our country. Now these bowlers are gunning for a championship.
Well, it's the RAF Association's trophy, so the RSL will have to beat them for it.
On Saturday, Northies Bowls Club hosted its 75th anniversary carnival. $3,500 worth of prize money snatched up, and for the first time it joined forces with ex-service organisations for a veterans competition.
We're turning it into a community club for bowlers and veterans, as well as just the local neighbourhood.
Tony Cameron hopes catering to veterans with the help of the RSL and the Royal Australian Air Force Association will boost social cohesion.
Having a place where veterans can come and connect and socialise is really important. So especially this year, we've all seen the outcomes or recommendations out of the Royal Commission into veteran and defence suicide.
Tim McCrory says RSL members are often together for services like Remembrance Day, but that some are missing out on simple social activities.
It's a good way for the local community to meet veterans and learn a bit more about the ADF, what veterans go through, why we've served.
Josh Van Staden, 7 News.
All right, that's fantastic. Time now, though, to have a look at all the day's sport and the battle for final spots heats up in the cricket, Nate.
Absolutely, Joe. And Med Easts are looking good after a third straight win, but they have a tough run home in the one-day comp, while the best sprint car drivers in the country once again light up the Toowoomba Speedway.
Stream 7 News anywhere, anytime, live and on demand on 7plus. And with 7news.com.au, you'll know the news now.
And welcome back for all of tonight's sport. The sprint cars return to the Toowoomba Speedway on Saturday night, with Lockie McHugh hoping to keep his Ultimate Sprint Car Series lead. But the arrival of Brock Hallett presented a new challenge, with drivers battling it out for the $3,000 winner's cheque.
It was the best of the best head-to-head in the sprint cars, and Lockie McHugh and Brock Hallett qualified at the front for the feature. The two traded blows before Hallett took the lead with 13 laps remaining and put a gap on the field. But a caution put McHugh back in the hunt.
The late restart really helped us and managed to get a run around the top side there and get back in the lead. Only 3 laps to go, I had to make it count, so tried to make the move as quick as I could.
A difficult result for the Victorian, but there were some encouraging signs.
We led a fair chunk of that race, but to get past with a few laps to go after a caution is just the way it goes. So really cool Toowoomba Speedway track tonight, and just got to thank my GW racing team and all the great helpers we had here tonight.
Second, but the car's in one piece, and it was a good race. It was a good race between those front four runners. It was really good. So it's a shame not to win it, but anyway, that's the way it goes.
Hallett and his team raced 17 nights in the United States in June.
We had a really good time, and we set 4 quick times over there and run 8th out of 55 cars at Ohio Speed Week.
It was a good night for Toowoomba's Nick Well, who fought his way up to 4th.
It's good to have our speed back that we were struggling with the last 2 shows, so it was good to mix it up with the bigger boys up the front tonight.
And the reigning Queensland champ is hungry for more.
We'll do some more homework and come back and try and get on top 3.
Jack Lewis, 7 News.
A strong bowling performance has led Metropolitan East to their 3rd win of the season in the Toowoomba Cricket one-day comp. They're now 3rd on the ladder, but their run into the finals will see them take on the rest of the top 4.
Restricted to 137 off their 45 overs, it left Highfields plenty to do with the ball.
It was a pretty tough game today. I mean, Mets, they bowled pretty well. It was, we left a few runs out on the table there and made it really hard for us to defend.
They put a strong effort in on the field and were rewarded early. Met Easts found themselves 2 for 10.
It was really good. Our bowlers had a pretty good crack there and restricted their runs pretty well, so that was a good effort by them.
But the visitors proved too strong with the bat. Dean Fry scoring 78 and Brendan Saberg making 48.
They batted really well and just paced the innings nicely.
A positive result for a team down in numbers.
Really pleasing. We had plenty of blokes out this week, so it's good to see fellas step up from reserve grade and put in a good performance this week.
Met Easts are now in 3rd position after 3 wins and 2 losses.
Good win for us. Keeps us in the hunt for semi-finals with a couple of tough games to finish up.
While Highfields will chase their 2nd win next week against University.
We're still in a tight tussle for the 5th position there, so we'll have to see what goes on.
Other matches, Western Districts were beaten for the first time this season by determined Southern Districts, and University fell to the Northern Brothers Diggers. Jack Lewis, 7 News.
Sticking with cricket, and Toowoomba's George Vol continues to help the Sydney Thunder to a strong start in the WBBL. Vol scored 92 off 55 balls in a player of the match performance as the Thunder took down the Adelaide Strikers.
Advancing and hitting it high and long and onto the hill again.
Yeah, the Thunder sit on top of the ladder and they'll next play the Brisbane Heat on Thursday. Now, Warwick's Lucy Burke and Allara's Kira Holmes are still yet to make their WBBL debuts for Brisbane. And Toowoomba's Brendan Doggett proved instrumental in Australia A's win over India A. He took 7 wickets in the game in Mackay, including 6 for 15 in the first innings. And that wraps it up for this Monday night in sport. Thanks very much, Jo.
Thanks for that, Nath. Stay with us after the break. Livio joins us and he'll have all the weather details for us.
G'day, Livio, Regano with tonight's weather. Full steam into the final month of spring, and it sure is going to be a warm week ahead. Heatwave conditions will gradually creep in from the west, reaching a climax on Friday, and there's a small but ever-present risk of thunderstorms. Here's a sample of today's local temperatures on the Downs. In Toowoomba, we reached the top of 33 degrees after a low this morning of 17. Warwick got to 34 and Dalby 35. To the satellite loop, there's not much cloud to talk of affecting at least the populated parts of Queensland, but certainly through the Channel Country you can see this band of storms just encroaching onto Queensland. It's linked to a trough, and over the next day or two it will start spreading east. It's already affecting the Darling Downs, where thunderstorms, especially around the Granite Belt, have been popping up this afternoon. Better chance tomorrow. Let's look at today's chart. There's the trough spread through the Channel Country. Ahead of it you can see the trajectory of the air. It's bringing all this equatorial air down, so it's very, very warm. 40s out over Western Queensland, sometimes up to 42, 43. Tomorrow's chart, that trough moves a little bit closer into southeast Queensland, making for a better chance of potentially severe thunderstorms in the southeast, but just continuing warm in the tropics. Now the latest from BOM, the Darling Downs and Granite Belt forecast. A heatwave warning is current. Severe thunderstorms are possible tomorrow afternoon and a high fire danger. Dalby 37 degrees, Gundawindi 39, Toowoomba 33, even Stanthorpe is 31. For the southeast coast, inland thunderstorms again possibly severe. Gatton 37 degrees, Ipswich 36, Brisbane 32. Looking ahead for Toowoomba, temperatures will gradually start climbing the ladder, reaching a peak this Friday. The most likely time for thunderstorms will be tomorrow and again Friday to Sunday. For Warwick, again, you can see that climb. We get to 37 degrees on Thursday. That's probably going to be the highest. I wouldn't call it a cool change, just not as hot after the weekend. And for Dalby as well, the two main times we're likely to get storms is tomorrow. And again, there's about a 30% chance on Friday and Saturday, and then 50% for Sunday. This week's question, why do troughs always seem to form over Western Queensland? On a typical day, the prevailing southeast winds build up pressure against the Great Dividing Range, creating a warp in the isobars known as the coastal ridge. You see it all the time on the daily weather chart. The pressure naturally drops on the sheltered side of the range, creating the opposite effect, a kind of trench in the isobar pattern called the inland trough, which we mark as a dotted line. The trough is most noticeable in summer when it gets really hot and the buoyancy of the air creates even lower pressure, making a further warp in the isobars. Have a nice evening. Now it's back to the team.
Great, thanks for that, Livio. And that's all from us for this Monday. Thanks very much for your company.
And just a reminder, if you'd like to see anything from our news again, you can do that over on 7plus or download the 7 News app. So from everyone here, enjoy the rest of your Monday night. Good night.
Good night.